A member of the Armed Services and Foreign Relations Committee, Democratic Senator Tim Kaine of Virginia. Good to have you both on board this hour. So, we were talking a little bit about the president's handling of sort of the concept that people see from the outside, the polls or whatever. But he has gotten this done. He's gotten this deal through, not without a lot of pain along the way, but isn't that part of the process?
Absolutely. And 6 months ago, we're talking about Obama's foreign policy. And you'd say the legacy was negative almost across the board. Now he's got a number of wins. The Trade Promotion Authority got done. He's on track to finish this big trade deal with the Pacific allies. You saw, of course, the Cuba opening. Now you've got the Iran deal. And his last Africa trip was probably the best single international trip that he's had over the course of his administration. I do think this means that this China summit that's coming up is going to be a lot tougher than the Chinese expect. Because he does want to show that he has more strength on foreign issues in that state.
Senator, how concerned are you that the president's going to have this become a law, this Iran deal, despite the fact that he's not going to get half the support in Congress, and that Americans oppose the deal, according to a new Pew poll, by more than 2-to-1 margin?
Joe, doing diplomacy with friends is hard, and doing diplomacies with adversaries tougher. Remember when Truman said we're going to invest billions and rebuild the economies of Japan and Germany? That was controversial. When Kennedy tried to negotiate the nuclear test ban treaty with the Soviet Union, that was controversial. When Nixon said let's go to China and reopen to China, that was controversial. This is very difficult stuff, but great presidents in America have often decided that tomorrow is more important than yesterday, and you got to do tough diplomacy even with adversaries. In this case, diplomacy that will deprive Iran of a nuclear weapon for at least 15 years or more is something that's worth doing, and that's why I support it.
Can you recall any time that any foreign policy measure this important, this sweeping, as David Ignatius said, this much of a cosmic bet was so unpopular with the American people? I just can't. Can you?
Well, I think the opening to China would have been unpopular at the time. The Marshall Plan to rebuild Germany and Japan was controversial at the time. I know this. When Kennedy was negotiating the nuclear test ban treaty with the Soviet Union right after the Cuban Missile Crisis, hugely unpopular, and that's why he went to and gave that famous speech at American University. This is a very difficult thing to do, but, you know, for me, all you got to do is look at the status quo. I'm not even thinking about alternatives. The status quo was an Iranian nuclear program rocketing ahead, nearly 20,000 centrifuges, nearly 12,000 kilograms of enriched uranium. For at least 15 years, in my view, this is a dramatic improvement over the status quo. It's not perfect because no compromise or concession is, but it is dramatically better than what we had, certainly better than the path that Vice President Cheney, laid out yesterday. The track record of that path followed the Cheney doctrine, and you end up with an expanding and accelerating Iranian nuclear program, and that's the last thing we need to do for the U.S. or our allies.
Senator Kaine, it's Willie Geist. As you sat with your balance on this deal, weighing the pros and cons, you said one of the cons was what might happen in 10 or 15 years as some of the terms of the deal expire. What are those specific concerns? What are you worried might happen a decade from now?
Right. So Willie, really quickly, I think the caps in place on the plutonium facility, enriched uranium, and centrifuges from now through year 15 are very strong. And also the inspections regime is very strong. What happens after year 15, as you know, is some of the caps start to come off. Enhanced inspections stay on through year 25. After year 25, basically Iran is only then subject to the terms of the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, which includes inspections, intrusive inspections that we haven't had before. So as the caps on uranium and centrifuges start to come off after year 15, we enter into a more challenging period. But 15 years is a long time. And 15, even the critics of the deal, here's what they're saying. They were saying Iran is months away from a nuclear weapon. Now they're saying they don't like the deal because in 15 years, Iran could be months away from a nuclear weapon. 15 years of peace is worth doing diplomacy, and more importantly, as a member of the Armed Services Committee, I want to hold out the ability to use a military threat. Doing diplomacy gives us more of a military threat because we'll be able to do inspections that will give us better intel, and we have a coalition together around us doing diplomacy first. first, and we should always do diplomacy first. That enhances our military threat.
All right, Senator Tim Kaine, thanks so much for being with us this morning. We appreciate
Absolutely.
it.
You know,